Now, let's get into this banking spying scandal, which is quite astonishing, really. So a bank spying clause has been added to the Data Protection and Digital Information Bill. The last-minute amendment would force banks to survey the accounts of welfare recipients and the people linked to those payments. To explain a bit more about what exactly has happened, I'm joined now by Mariano De Santi, a legal and policy officer. Mariano, what's gone on here? Who's tabled this amendment? It's come out of the blue, seemingly.
Yes. So this was an amendment that was tabled by the government for the UK data protection reform, which was first presented in November 2021. It has since gained widespread criticism for a number of reasons, including the extent of the powers that the government will be given to justify the collection of personal data of British citizens or residents. The government always said this was not a problem. However, what happened is with this amendment, we had first of all more than 230 amendments being presented a couple of days before the debate in Parliament,
right,
mostly by the government. The amendment in question, the one about granting access to DWP, or generally speaking the government, to banking data, is indeed quite concerning, because fundamentally it's an amendment that gives a power for the government to have access to bank accounts, or generally speaking accounts linked to a financial institution,
yes,
according to what the government believes it is relevant for them in order to carry out a public task. It does so not only for the people who receive benefits, but also for the people who are linked with people who receive benefits. This could mean members of family. This could
be anyone.
Mean tenants. You know, like what?
I mean, my understanding is previously the DWP needed to have some evidence of perhaps fraudulent activity in order to ask banks to release the accounts of individuals. But this seems to be suggesting that there don't need to be any reasonable grounds for suspicion at all, that these bank accounts can just be handed over to the government.
Indeed. And the way the government have presented these amendments is indeed to make those checks regular checks. So fundamentally the government wants the power to be routinely scrutinizing what is going on in your bank account, and possibly take action if they believe there is a suspicion of fraud coming from those activities.
I mean, how sinister do you think this is? You know, we're very used to these days, I think, being spied upon, Big Brother, CCTV, the information we put online, devices seemingly listening to us. But actually looking into our bank affairs without reasonable justification or cause strikes me as being very Orwellian.
Well, I mean, speaking about what the law is supposed to do in a democratic country is to put boundaries in terms of what the government is or is not allowed to do when they exercise their powers. What this bill will do is exactly to put such boundaries which are so big and so extend to a point where they become meaningless. I mean, like, what is it that is not relevant for checking if you're committing a fraud? What is it that, who is not linked to somebody who's receiving benefits? In a more, let's say, general terms, I guess it's this law treats everybody as a suspect, and it shouldn't be, let's say, up to you to prove that you're innocent, and that the government shouldn't stick the nose into your bank account, but it should be for the government to justify why they want to have access to your bank account.
Although, as we've learned with the esteemed host of this show, who is currently in the jungle, banks seem to think that they can say anything about anyone and investigate anything that they like without due cause anyway.